of the whole at 6:40. Kristen, you want to take a roll?
Yes. Trustee Byrd is absent. Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Brennan.
Here.
Trustee Galante. Here. Trustee Glatz.
Present.
Trustee Mueller.
Here.
President Van Berg is away.
Item number 2, consider approval of the minutes of the committee of the whole held on January 7th,
So moved.
2020.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, receive updates on strategic plan.
Okay, so this is a update of the strategic plan process that the board and the staff went through in November. We had a good start those 2 nights at the convention center, and the staff has been working with management partners to update it, refine it, and present it to you tonight. At some point, we would ask the board to approve it tonight, really more just for your review. Are there things that are missing in here? Things that shouldn't be in here? And so Jacqueline from Management Partners is going to present this tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So,
Hello.
hi. So, yeah, I just have a few slides and that I want to run through with you. I will say that this process has gone very quickly and smoothly, and it's kind of hard to believe that we're at the end of it already. We started back on October 3rd with interviews with members of the Board of Trustees and staff. We interviewed the village manager and his leadership team, along with yourselves. We followed that up on October 22nd with focus groups with members of the business community and employees. And then, you know, we started preparing for the 2 workshops in November. And while we were doing that, we, you know, analyzed your citizen survey, and your staff prepared an environmental scan. We had a good time November 18th and 19th at the convention center. And so what I have tonight are the results of all of the work that's taken place since October 3rd. And I have, here we go. I have the elements of the strategic plan based on all of that input and the work that was done at the convention center on the 2 nights that we met. Beginning with, you know, the vision, and the vision was crafted. All the elements of the strategic plan were crafted very carefully with the village manager and his staff, based on your input and your direction, the 2 nights that we met. So we have the vision, which really focuses on Tinley Park being a destination community in the region, and really focusing on embracing all walks of life through music and entertainment, vast resources, and first-class services. And you'll see that theme carried through in the mission, the values, the goals, and the strategies. So then the mission that was developed based on all the input we received, and a lot of conversation on the 2 nights that we met. We are committed to providing a safe, high-quality experience for residents, the business community, and visitors. That's your mission statement. And then, you know, there was an extended discussion about your values. And you have a number of values, but the first one that that really kind of guides everything that's done here by yourselves as policymakers and staff is putting the village before self. And that focus is really based on, you know, ethics and cooperation and cost-effective work and service, along with all of the other values that you all really discussed extensively and prioritized that evening. Accountability, efficiency, inclusion, integrity, innovation, leadership, safe and supportive environment, and teamwork. And then, you develop 5 goals, and those 5 goals are supported by strategies, quite a few of them, 32 strategies among the 5 goals. And so each page of the next PowerPoint slide is the goal and the strategies that came out of your work during the workshop. So I'm wondering if you want to kind of go through each of the goals and strategies and have a discussion about them, or take questions at the end. How would you like to do that?
I think everybody's received this and seen it, so I don't know that we need to go through each one.
Okay, all right.
If there's specific questions that trustees could ask.
So just to highlight, the first goal really talks about, your public safety, supporting and enhancing that comprehensive network and partnering with the community. There are 4 strategies there. The second goal really focuses on a highly motivated workforce and the investments in your employees, your processes, and your technology. 7 strategies there. The third goal is expanding your economic development opportunities here in the village, and 8 strategies to support that goal. And then increasing neighborhood and business district stability. That was very important and discussed a lot, and there are strategies also there, 6 of them supporting that goal. Improving community engagement and tourism, which is very key to economic development in the village. So it has its own goal and supporting strategies. And then, so, next steps, what happens next? The village, once you adopt the strategic plan and the supporting goals and strategies, management partners has already been working extensively with the village manager and your staff, your leadership team, to develop a detailed implementation action plan that then can be incorporated into work plans and budget priorities, so that all of those strategies are implemented. There are also performance indicators that associated with each of the goals that will then help you as a board track the progress and the results from each of the goals and strategies as staff is working on them. That's it. Are there questions or comments?
Go back to
Thank you for all you,
vision.
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to the vision? Did you have that up there?
Certainly.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure.
Sure.
Sorry, Bill.
Just want to thank you. It's a lot of work that you put into it. We know that, so you've been doing it since October, so we appreciate all that you've done on this and your team.
It went very smoothly.
Well, that's good.
With the help of, your staff and yourselves. It's an excellent process.
So there are quite a few strategies.
Yes.
Is there an opportunity for us to combine a couple of them? I don't know how you want that feedback brought to you.
There are opportunities to combine strategies. Certainly, if you have thoughts about that now, or tomorrow, or next week, or a week from now, yes, let us know, and we
Okay.
can certainly.
How do you want to
Do
work
that.
that, Dave?
Do you want to just send them to us?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of an art, not a science, so
Yeah.
there's no perfect way to do this, but if there's a way to kind of make things more precise or.
I was just looking at goal B. I think we could combine a couple of those 7
Okay.
and not lose any of the points of those strategies.
Okay. got some specific thoughts as well?
Thank you, Jacqueline. I appreciate, I think, the
Sure.
collaboration that, was put into this by, village staff and the board was really helpful. And, I think for us up here on the board, I think it was helpful to kind of dig in a little bit deeper
Good.
than we normally do and
Good.
get our hands dirty. So it was it was nice and insightful. So thank you.
You're welcome. The time was well spent on the 2 nights of workshops, I believe, and I have to tell you that Dave and Hannah, among others, the leadership team, so they received the draft right before the holidays on December 11th, and we've been working back and forth very carefully with them up until, the past week. So they put a lot of time into this also.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Anything else? Bill,
No, that's good.
Sure.
want to add anything to the plan?
So yeah, if there's any other feedback, just let us know and we'll make those changes and then we'll put this on probably February 1 of that.
Great. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Back to you.
Number 4, receive update on November revenues and budget versus actual report. Brad, you want to fire away? Use this clicker.
That's the board schedule. Yeah, that's a second, no problem. Yeah, so you've received the November financial report, which is the 7th month of the fiscal year. While they're pulling this up, I can go ahead and get started. Sales tax continues to be a little behind where it was last year at the same point in time. Again, kind of indicative of economic slowdown, something that we continue to monitor, but it is not significantly out of skew to cause a great concern. For example, the August sales, the sales tax reported in November, were down $24,000 for the month compared to August of 2018. And year to date for the fiscal year, we were down 158,000, which was about just shy of 2% down year over year. The home rule sales tax, of course, tracks very similarly. Was 2.8% down for the month and 0.5% down year to date. The use tax continues to move forward, again, largely due to the Wayfair decision last year, where now we have more entities reporting sales taxes for internet sales. And that is going to actually change in the not too distant future, as more companies that are doing internet sales will be required to register and calculate sales tax based on the delivery point destination, which will actually add to our regular sales tax and will impact our use tax on the other side, make that shrink just a little bit. And again, use tax is not the hugest revenue source that we have here, but again, nothing to sneeze at. Year to date, this fiscal year, through 7 months, we've received over $1 million. We'll receive roughly shy of probably about $2 million for the fiscal year. Income tax is showing a positive trend. The November reporting was about flat to the same time last year, but year to date we are almost $500,000 ahead of last year. That's about a 15% increase. Property taxes are on track with collections. Video gaming continues to show modest increases as our number of entities have somewhat stabilized at the moment. And motor fuel taxes, again, continue to reflect a downward trend, was 18% down for the month of November, receipts for the month of November, and just shy of 5% down year to date. We now have the new transportation renewal fund distributions, again, because that just came out, became effective in June of 2019, or July of 2019, rather. We only have current year data, and we have through the month of November, we've received about $250,000. And again, the same, that revenue source has the same restrictions as to how it gets spent towards roadway maintenance as the main motor fuel tax, but obviously it will help us to fund our ongoing pavement management program. Commuter parking continues to be stable, was up just over 0.5% November compared to the same time last year, and year to date up about 2%. We then continue into the graphical presentations of much of what I've just covered, showing sales taxes down. Again, property taxes down at the moment, but that's, again, just a snapshot. We do track we track the property taxes by tax levy year, and we do not see a collection problem with any of our tax levies. So there's no concerns there. It's just more of a timing differential as to when people pay their tax bills. Income taxes showing up. General fund revenues in general, overall, up slightly this year compared to last year. Motor fuel taxes down, the hotel tax up, commuter parking fund up, water sewer revenues down. Comparison of revenue and expenses. Again, the key takeaway when we look at this is that the gaps between revenues and expenses for the current fiscal year to the prior fiscal year are fairly stable, or in most cases increasing, which is what we like to see. And then the trend lines, graphs reflecting the trend of the revenues over time, property tax revenues, sales tax revenues, home rule sales tax, the income tax, use tax, and obviously these points on these charts are reflecting that there are cyclical variations as to when these revenues come in. Amusement tax, motor fuel tax, again, hotel motel tax. Now, if you're more traditional, and want to dig into the numbers, the report continues with a comparison, giving you more detail of the composition of our revenues and expenses by the primary budgetary categories. You then, and then the same thing for the water sewer fund and commuter parking for the revenues. A chart that shows our status with the state shared revenues that are distributed on a per capita basis. And then the final segment is the impact fees that we have collected on behalf of other governments, which totals just shy of $22 million since inception. And that concludes the report for November.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Brad, do you have a date for the point of delivery tax?
I believe that goes into effect July of this year.
Okay.
I believe it coincides with the new state fiscal year,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. So, we would then start to see the impact of that about 3 months later.
Okay. Do you have any preliminary estimates on that?
I don't,
No.
at this point, still looking at some analysis on that to see if I can, because obviously that's going to impact my projections for our
Next year.
fiscal '21 budget year.
Right.
And so wanted to look at, as to what I think that those impacts will be, yes.
Very good.
Box up online, dude.
No.
Anything else? Dave, anything you want to add?
No.
Item 5, thank you, Brad.
you.
Discuss board goals and budgets scheduled for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, so, we are in the middle of our budget process now, where the department heads have been working on their budgets. The manager's office and treasurer's office will be meeting starting next week. With some of the, to review some of the priorities. And so, obviously, before that, we do that, we wanted to really get your priorities, kind of your insights as to what is important this year, what things maybe are not on here, what revenue should be on here or shouldn't be on here. So last year, we basically had the board rank, kind of similar to what you saw in the strategic plan, but there was a number of goals that we actually had to rank it. So the chart that you saw, and I won't go through all this because everybody had time to read it, was ranked really from 1 to 36. And so this chart actually shows the status of all these projects. Interestingly, if you look certainly at the first 7 or 8 of them, they're almost all economic development rate related. Then we get into things such as hiring new officers, grants, looking at the sticker programs, there's a survey, thank you. Updating the legacy code, things like that. So there's a number of things on here. And so, as you can see, there were some things that were completed, some things were, we were put considerable effort to. Some things obviously went in a different direction, like the mental health center. So, but that gives you a little bit of a flavor for what we accomplished this year. So that you're taking it over, you want to? I was gonna let you, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, what I try to do in these next several slides is really just take a look, some of what we heard from Jacqueline just on the strategic plan, as well as maybe some of the ones that were in last year's budget. And this is just some of the, again, not at all a comprehensive list, but just some of the initial priorities that we've been certainly hearing. Public safety, obviously, allowing additional hiring of officers as resources allow. And at the same time, looking at things like technology, resource sharing, other efficiencies like overtime to reduce costs. Workforce issues, there was a lot of discussion on that during the strategic plan, and some of these things came out of this, developing a more formal employee recognition program, improving internal communications, continue to improve customer service. Some of these things, such as the internal communications, we're already working on some plans for that. Economic development, again, none of these are gonna be like new plans, but things that we've discussed. One of the things we'll be coming to the board with shortly is some thoughts we have on Tinley Park Plaza and Park Center Plaza. We're also looking at infrastructure improvements in the southwest corridor around 183rd and LaGrange to promote development there. Again, as we're well aware of, looking at North Street, Old Bremen Cash Store property, make some decisions on where we're gonna go with that, now that those two projects stalled. And then, obviously, to figure out what the plan is gonna be with the state in terms of that property, if they're going to sell it to us, and if they're not, making it a top priority to get them to clean that property up. So, one of the other goals, again, from the strategic plan was neighborhood business district stability. And one of the things we've heard, very specific goal, developing a proactive code enforcement program, which obviously would require some additional resources there. Increasing the promotion and support of business retention, and also doing more in terms of engaging new businesses. And of course, something we're always looking to do every year is attracting new businesses to fill current vacancies. And then finally, matching the last goal of the strategic plan, finalizing everything with Harmony Square. Trolley issue, something that came up in the strategic planning process. Donna is looking at options right now that we will be discussing in the budget. In terms of resources, continuing to review our relationship with the Southland CDB and determining how they can better serve us, or we can get additional resources to fund many of the programs that we want to do. And again, this is right from the strategic plan, continuing to expand engagement efforts with the community. So what we're looking for tonight, again, what additional priorities not listed here should we be focusing on? Should there be items that I listed here that should be eliminated or lower priority? Revenues, should there be any additional revenue should be looking at, or any revenues that we currently utilize that should be eliminated or scaled back? And so here's the schedule. So we would ask if you could look. We try to schedule, so the budget discussion night is you know, depending on how much, you know, we get into it, it could be a fairly long night. Last year, for the first time, we were able to do this in one night, and I credit a lot of that having the board kind of looking at it beforehand, asking us questions, and so we think we can do one night. I think if we're all prepared and do our homework, but the proposal would be to do it on a cow night, March 10th. So if that is an issue, please let us know right away. And the timing on this, one, giving us enough time to obviously meet with the departments, make the recommendations. But then, and Brad can explain, we also then, once the board has their recommended budget, we'll have to make additional changes, and there's going to have to be posting for the various public hearings. So we're in kind of a very narrow window when we can have that meeting. And then, of course, the adoption of the budget after the public hearing, and the first meeting of April will be the 21st. So that's all we have. So we're looking for any input that you have on the items in this presentation.
Dave, and maybe this is already on there, but, you know, automation of forms and getting a financial package or software, which I believe is already in the budget, so that we can start
Yep.
communicating more information to our residents. Is something that I'd like to see us get done.
Okay.
In business retention, you know, I don't know, you know, reviewing the resources of really what we have. And even if there's something in the playbook that can be used to help some struggling businesses that have no other options but to close currently.
So you're talking about maybe taking it beyond downtown?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Okay, good.
One thing that I think that we can increase efficiencies over at the police department, and I think, Chief, maybe you could help me elaborate on this, but we're still writing paper tickets instead of the e-tickets, so I don't, we could be using the e-tickets. I know we're waiting for some issues. There's some issues with Cook and Will County because we're in both counties, but I think that could improve some efficiencies even for our clerks and for our officers out on the street. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
As it stands now, it's going to be mandated by 2021 anyhow for e-ticket, at least in Will County. It would help with efficiencies because right now we have the ticket written on the street and then it's re-entered by a clerk. It can also lead to error, where if we have an e-ticket and it's filled out by the officer, it's submitted automatically. So it's going to be required by Will County by 2021. I'll check on Cook County.
And do you have an idea of the cost for the software, though?
I do not.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll just throw one in there for you, Dave. It's a big focus on downtown and then the southwest, but I think we're leaving off that Harlem Avenue corridor that needs some work as well in terms of economic development.
About 59.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, by any chance, can you give an update for everyone on the firehouse?
Sorry,
Could you give an update on how the firehouse is going?
oh, yes, I'd say we're just about at the 50%, maybe a little bit past halfway. John, would you want to jump in on that?
We just
Windows
made a
went in
pay up
today.
and we're at 59% right now, completed.
Yeah.
59.
Well, we've certainly been blessed with good weather.
We still on schedule?
So initially, we were up to 4 weeks behind schedule due to all the rain we had this winter, but the construction manager doubled up their scheduling, and we've now been overlapping our subs. And the last report I received from them, we were pretty close to being back on schedule for a spring grand opening.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Very good.
Thanks, Chief.
I'll add two things for your budget conversations out of the mayor's office. One of them, I think we've already kind of discussed regarding the senior transportation and the change in the PACE contract and the village not proceeding with that. So we'll be requesting that we investigate and look through some options regarding maybe duplicating the current bus that we have as Tinley Park, or downsizing that to two. I know right now we're operating an IT van, which is just a Dodge minivan, but possibly looking into investigating maybe two of those in one bus or two buses. I don't know. If maybe management would work with whomever Dominic's replacement will be and the dispatchers on some thoughts on that. The other request that we'll be putting in has been something that Dominic and I have been discussing for a couple months now, for the mayor's office, for an addition of one part-time intern to work on various projects, kind of going back and forth with the senior center, and then the operations of the liquor commissioner's office and the mayor's office. This would be just a part-time position, so it'd be 19 hours per week. We wouldn't be asking for anything more than that. The position would not be pension eligible, so there'd be no IMRF pension obligations to that as well. So those are my two requests, I guess, if you'd like to call it that. I think those are two issues that we're currently faced with dealing with in the very immediate future. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, revenues, anything like that? Okay.
Are these dates okay with everybody?
Yeah, March 10th is the key thing, so Lisa doesn't have to track you down. Has anybody seen any problem with March? Okay.
It's my anniversary, but well,
Oh.
what better way to spend it?
Yeah.
Number 6, receive comments from the public. Anyone care to address the board? I would just like to add before I close it, for the members that are here that aren't part of the Public Works Committee, like Trustee Brady and Brian and myself, a van from Robinson Engineering is here. in the back row. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Okay.
Have a motion to close the committee of the whole?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Good.